So welcome back. We're going to talk about a variety of different relational arrangements. Now these are the ones that probably focus a little bit more on the embedded organizational perspective instead of the discrete organizational perspective. And so again, we've got kind of a matrix here. We would look at multilateral arrangements and bilateral arrangements. We've got bilateral. We've got non-contractual arrangements. You've got contractual arrangements. And then you've got equity-based arrangements. I won't write all the different examples out here because it will take forever, but I'll at least draw out the matrix and point to them during this discussion. Okay. So, let's look at a multilateral arrangement that is also non-contractual. Some of them could be lobbing arrangements. Okay? European Roundtable of Industrialists, Better Business Bureau, Chamber of Commerce. Now, if you're interested in lobbying, I've got a whole module on that called Business and Politics. I highly recommend that you look at it. You've also got things like joint standard setting. This could be things like the Linux Coalition, ISO, I'm sure you're familiar with that. I've also got a couple videos on that. You've got things like learning communities. This could be things like Strategic Management Society, which is a kind of non-contractual group of researchers and professionals who get together and share ideas, normally at the Strategic Management Society conference. Now, if we also look at a multilateral arrangement that is contractual, you can have things like research consortiums. A lot of times these are funded by corporations but hosted by universities, where groups of individuals, particularly in like tech and science, get together, exchange ideas, exchange research, and of course there are usually some sort of contractual agreements about what that research is to be used for. You have international marketing alliances. Airlines are notorious for this. You think about the Star Alliance in airlines, where your favorite carrier doesn't go to a certain place, but they have an agreement with a partner airline, and of course your bags can get transferred and you can go from one point to the next. You also have export partnerships. And think of the Netherlands export combination. These export partnerships are, again, where multiple firms within a country or countries get together and try to increase their bargaining power as suppliers. Again, thinking back to Five Forces model. Then you've got equity-based multilateral agreements. Think about shared payment systems. Visa, credit cards, PayPal. Again, that is where, and of course I'll eventually have some videos on multi-sided platforms. This is where you have multi-sided platforms that both parties have some sort of expectation. So when it comes to like credit cards or PayPal, they expect that the payment will arrive, and in exchange the merchant is paying some sort of a premium for that degree of security. But again, it's equity-based. You also have construction consortiums that are equity-based. Think of Eurotunnel. I would actually also put NASA in there. Again, you think about how multiple countries and companies get together to fund some sort of venture that they're all supposed to benefit from. And then you also have joint reservation systems. Think of Kayak, Priceline, all that kind of stuff, where you can book your flight, your hotel, and all these kinds of things on one website, and again there is some sort of a mutual agreement between the customer, the platform owner, i.e. Kayak, Priceline, etc., and then the provider, the airline, the hotel, whatever you're looking at. Now if we come down here to bilateral arrangements that are non-contractual, you could have things like a cross-selling deal, where there's kind of an understanding between two pharmaceutical firms that within one organization you'll You'll sell your drugs and we'll sell our drugs. You'll sell company A will sell company B's drug for a certain amount of time. Company B will also sell company A's drug, maybe as a package. You know, like think of something like an antihistamine and a decongestant being sold together in one package. This may be a non-contractual bilateral arrangement. You can also have research and development staff exchanges. And I've talked a lot about this in keiretsu arrangements, like between Mitsubishi and its suppliers. Okay? They are sending people from one firm to the next and exchanging knowledge. It's non-contractual, but it's something that still happens. You also got market sharing, information sharing agreements, and you see this a lot between hardware and software companies. It makes sense that they would share information on market research because, let's face it, there's no point in having computer hardware without the software to back it up, and there's no purpose in having the software without the hardware to back it up. So there has to be a market that exists for both of them at the same time. You would also see this occasionally in video games as well. Again, the video game console owners would want to share market information with video game producers about which kinds of markets for those video games would be viable, and of course vice versa. Now, under contractual and bilateral, you have licensing agreements, and most franchises fall under this. So, for example, someone wants to run a McDonald's, they have a licensing agreement with McDonald's corporate. You can look at video games, that's another one. A lot of video game makers get a licensing agreement to use the Nintendo or the Sony name or whatever. And again, that's bilateral and contractual. There's very strict limits on how the parent company's name can or cannot be used. You also have co-development contracts. And again, under contractual and bilateral. You see this a lot in the entertainment industry. Think of like Disney and Pixar. That's a good example where they develop the movies together. And then you have co-branding alliances, also contractual and bilateral. I think I talked about this in the last video. Think of McDonald's always agreeing to sell Coke products within their restaurants. They kind of go hand in hand, Coke and McDonald's. Now, under bilateral equity-based arrangements, you can have a new product joint venture. Think about when Sony and Ericsson got into the cell phone industry. Okay, that was a joint venture. You also can have cross-border joint ventures. Think of, in order for Daimler Chrysler to enter the Chinese market, they had to have a local partner, so they partnered up with Beijing Automotive. Okay? They get access to the Chinese market, and of course they get to sell their cars in China in exchange. And then again, under bilateral equity-based, you might have a local joint venture. Think of, I don't know, CNN being able to have a Turkish television channel in Turkey. So these are the different relational arrangements. Hopefully you enjoyed this particular video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.